In trading, every generation believes it's discovered something new, yet the truth never changes. The only formula that never misses isn't written in charts or algorithms. It's written in how you think. In 2026, the difference between success and failure won't be about who has the best data, but about who has the best discipline. Every trader learns patterns, setups, and indicators, but very few learn themselves. The real evolution of trading has never been about market innovation. It has always been about mental transformation. You can't win a mental game with a mechanical mindset. The market doesn't care how advanced your tools are, it only reflects how stable your emotions are. Most traders spend years trying to perfect entries and exits, but they never perfect emotional balance. They read thousands of books about systems yet avoid one book that matters most, their own behavior under pressure. In 2026, the traders who thrive will be the ones who understand that mastery begins when ego ends. Because the moment you stop trying to control the market and start controlling your reactions, you cross from randomness to rhythm. Every loss stops being punishment and becomes information. Every drawdown stops being emotional and becomes analytical. That's the shift, turning chaos into clarity through awareness. The new generation of traders believes technology is the edge, but technology without psychology is noise amplified. AI may help you find entries, but it can't help you hold conviction when the market moves against you. Data can show you trends, but it can't remove fear when your equity curve drops. The future of trading education isn't in teaching more indicators, it's in teaching emotional structure. Because no system survives the trader who lacks control. The greatest formula of 2026 is this: psychological consistency multiplied by risk discipline equals longevity. Trading success is not measured by win rate but by emotional recovery rate. How quickly you can return to logic after being hit by emotion. A trader who loses control loses not because of the trade, but because of the reaction that followed. Every blown account begins with one undisciplined thought, and every consistent trader begins with one principle. Certainty is an illusion, but control is a choice. The traders who adapt to this truth will survive every cycle, because they're not fighting the market anymore, they're flowing with it. They've learned that the mind is not an observer of the market. It's the filter through which every candle is interpreted. Two traders can see the same setup and make opposite decisions, because perception is shaped by belief, and belief is shaped by experience. That's why education in trading must shift from technical literacy to mental literacy. We've trained traders to read charts but not to read themselves. The trader of 2026 must be part analyst, part psychologist, part philosopher. They must understand that self-awareness is risk management, discipline is defense, patience is profit. Every impulsive trade is an untrained emotion looking for validation. Every revenge trade is insecurity disguised as confidence. And every period of silence between trades is where the real growth happens. The best traders of the next era won't chase setups. They'll chase understanding. They'll know that less is more because the fewer trades they take, the more meaning each one carries. Their focus will shift from predicting the market to managing their internal state while participating in it. That's the new formula. Emotional intelligence as an asset class. Trading psychology isn't motivation, it's mathematics of behavior. It's the science of how you think under risk, how you act under uncertainty, and how you respond under loss. The trader who understands this formula will realize that trading is not about being right. It's about staying objective long enough for probability to favor you. In 2026, the winning traders won't be those who find certainty but those who find stability. Because stability compounds faster than returns. It compounds into trust, confidence, and precision. Once you master your mind, entries become simple, exits become natural, and losses become manageable. You no longer trade to prove something, you trade to perform something. That is the awakening. Not a strategy update, but a consciousness upgrade. The trader who understands that success is built not on control of outcome, but on control of self will never fall back to fear again. That is the mindset that never misses. The 2026 trading formula. The story of trading is the story of human evolution condensed into numbers, charts, and emotional reactions. Every candle tells the truth of a mind under pressure, every loss exposes a belief system, and every rally tempts the illusion of control. To understand how trading psychology evolved, you must see how traders themselves evolved, through cycles of greed, control, surrender, and awareness. In the early years between 2020 and 2022, the market became a global playground of emotion. Greed, excitement, and chaos were everywhere. The era of instant profits created a culture of illusion, where traders mistook volatility for opportunity and confidence for competence. Everyone wanted to be rich, but no one wanted to be disciplined. The fast money phase wasn't about learning the craft, it was about chasing dopamine. People weren't studying patterns, they were chasing noise. It was the age of emotional trading, where FOMO was strategy and patience was considered weakness. Every trader remembers that phase, the thrill of early success followed by the pain of inevitable correction. The market didn't just take money, it took illusions. It revealed what education couldn't teach, that trading magnifies every hidden flaw in human behavior. When the wave of euphoria ended, the silence that followed was the beginning of awareness. From 2023 to 2024, the narrative shifted. The same traders who once chased chaos began chasing control. They studied rules, refined systems, tested indicators, and built mechanical consistency. The pendulum swung from emotional impulse to analytical obsession. This was the age of overanalysis, where traders built frameworks so tight that they strangled intuition. They replaced fear with data, but they never addressed the mind interpreting that data. Trading journals filled with plans, entries, and exit rules, but not with emotional awareness. Traders tried to program away their humanity, believing that logic alone could conquer uncertainty. Yet the more rules they wrote, the more pressure they felt to follow them perfectly. The market still punished hesitation and overthinking, because even though the tools evolved, the emotions stayed the same. This second phase was an important bridge, the moment when traders realized that structure without psychology is a fragile defense. The systems were solid, but the people behind them were not. Emotional fatigue replaced emotional chaos. Traders knew what to do but couldn't execute it consistently. They began to understand that the battle wasn't about knowledge, it was about state of mind. And then came 2025 to 2026, the quiet transformation. The traders who lasted through greed and over-analysis entered a new dimension, emotional neutrality. No more thrill, no more panic, just calm precision. The evolved trader stopped chasing perfection and started building awareness. They discovered that success wasn't found in predicting the market, but in managing reactions to it. The statement, "You don't trade the market, you trade your reactions to it," became a truth they lived, not a quote they shared. They learned that every moment of hesitation comes from internal noise, not market uncertainty. By observing their own patterns, impatience, revenge trading, self-doubt, they developed a new kind of intelligence, emotional pattern recognition. That's the real edge of 2026. Not data, not prediction. Awareness. The evolved trader knows that risk is not something to eliminate, it's something to coexist with. He doesn't try to remove uncertainty, he learns to remain stable within it. This mindset turns trading from a fight into a flow. Losing trades no longer trigger identity crises, they become feedback loops. Winning trades no longer inflate ego, they reinforce process. The trader begins to separate outcome from identity, performance from self-worth. That's when consistency begins. The new generation of traders doesn't ask, "How do I win more?" They ask, "How do I stay centered when I lose?" Because the answer to that question defines every professional trader's longevity. The more evolved the trader, the more emotionally neutral he becomes. He knows that excitement and fear are the same energy, just in different costumes. He stops attaching meaning to single trades and starts focusing on the bigger cycle, the growth of his awareness. Every stage of this evolution mirrors human psychology. The beginner is the child, curious, impulsive, emotional. The intermediate is the analyst, calculated but often rigid, overcompensating for past pain. The evolved trader is the observer, calm, objective, detached but deeply aware. He no longer fights the market's chaos, he observes it like a mirror reflecting his own tendencies. When volatility rises, he doesn't react, he listens. When profit comes, he doesn't celebrate too loudly, he thanks discipline. When losses hit, he doesn't collapse, he reviews, adjusts, and resets. This neutrality is not coldness, it's mastery. The same way a surgeon performs under pressure, the evolved trader executes with calm precision. Years ago, traders defined success by profit. Now the definition has shifted. Success is measured by how long you can remain emotionally stable in the face of uncertainty. That's the mark of evolution. The new trader understands that the market doesn't reward intensity, it rewards balance. It doesn't care about opinions, it responds to behavior. That's why in 2026, the only traders who thrive are those who've stopped trying to control everything outside and started mastering everything inside. They treat the mind as their primary instrument, their emotional regulation as their trading system. Each breath before a trade becomes part of execution discipline. Each moment of silence after a loss becomes a moment of recalibration. This is trading as a form of self-awareness, an ongoing dialogue between discipline and desire. And when you look at that journey, from greed to control, from chaos to calm, you realize evolution was never about markets, it was about consciousness. The beginner traded the chart, the evolved trader trades himself. Every trader begins with analysis, but only the evolved one ends with awareness. Because once awareness arrives, the war ends. The market remains uncertain, but the trader no longer is. And that is the highest stage of evolution. When you realize you don't control markets, you control yourself. Neutrality is the new edge, the invisible force that separates those who survive from those who self-destruct. The market doesn't reward excitement, it rewards calm. It doesn't respond to emotion, it mirrors it. Every trader learns this truth eventually. Your greatest losses never come from bad setups but from emotional reactions. The untrained mind turns every candle into a story, every fluctuation into a threat, every loss into a judgment of self-worth. Neutrality breaks that cycle. It's not about being cold, it's about being clear. When a trader learns to operate from emotional neutrality, every decision becomes precise because it's free from distortion. Emotion distorts perception by shortening time. Under fear, traders exit too early. Under greed, they hold too long. Both are time perception errors, not technical errors. A neutral mind restores accurate timing by aligning logic with patience. You no longer rush trades because nothing feels urgent. You no longer hesitate because nothing feels personal. That's the psychological equilibrium where clarity lives. The difference between reacting and responding defines the difference between amateurs and professionals. Reaction is survival mode, fast, defensive, impulsive. Response is conscious awareness, measured, strategic, detached. The neutral trader doesn't eliminate emotion, he integrates it. He feels fear without obeying it, feels greed without serving it. He allows emotion to exist but not to command. That's mastery, not suppression but observation. Neutrality gives space between stimulus and action, between volatility and decision. In that space, precision is born. A trader's goal is no longer to avoid pain but to absorb it without identity. Every loss becomes data, not drama. Every gain becomes validation of process, not validation of self. Neutral traders don't chase pleasure or run from pain. They extract learning from both. They stop fighting emotions and start interpreting them as market feedback. When you reach that state, trading transforms from emotional warfare into a mental laboratory. You begin to see that the market isn't moving against you. It's moving through you, testing your alignment with your own principles. Each red candle is not a punishment, but a reflection of discipline under stress. Each green candle isn't a reward but a reminder that patience works. The more you anchor in neutrality, the less you crave control, because control was never real. You can't control the market, you can only control your readiness for what it does next. Neutrality creates that readiness. It prepares you to execute without attachment. You no longer trade to win, you trade to express your edge. Your job isn't to force profit, it's to repeat precision. Profits are outcomes, precision is behavior. Most traders confuse the two. They celebrate wins and mourn losses, not realizing both are just signals of how aligned or misaligned they were with process. The neutral trader transcends this emotional yo-yo. He knows that consistency doesn't mean winning every trade, it means maintaining mental balance after every trade. When your emotional curve flattens, your equity curve stabilizes. That's no coincidence. The most consistent traders have the smallest emotional swings. Emotional neutrality turns chaos into probability, randomness into rhythm. It's the invisible structure that keeps execution sharp and risk contained. In 2026, the real advantage won't come from better information but from better interpretation. And interpretation depends on neutrality. The ability to see the same chart everyone else sees and act without bias is the purest form of edge. Neutrality doesn't mean lack of passion. It means passion with boundaries. You still care deeply about performance, but you're no longer attached to the outcome. You approach trading the way a professional pilot approaches turbulence, not with panic, but with protocol. You follow processes, trust systems, and let the storm pass. That's what detachment looks like in practice. Confidence grounded in discipline, not emotion. To reach neutrality, traders must recondition their nervous system to stop associating market movement with survival. When you stop equating a losing trade with personal failure, you unlock awareness. Awareness brings freedom. Freedom brings precision. Precision brings consistency. And consistency brings results. This is the real compounding process. Emotional stability multiplied by time equals mastery. Every trader who's lasted long enough eventually learns that neutrality is the state behind all high performance. It's why elite athletes, soldiers, and traders look calm in chaos. They've trained their minds to stay functional under pressure. Their hearts may race, but their focus never wavers. They don't seek safety in outcomes, they find strength in process. That's the essence of trading neutrality. It's not numbness, it's control. It's the moment when a trader loses money yet feels no collapse of confidence because his self-worth isn't tied to market feedback anymore. He's detached but fully engaged, aware, disciplined, precise. The emotions still exist, but they no longer interfere. That is the mark of true psychological evolution. The neutral trader has replaced excitement with execution, anxiety with awareness, hope with habits. He doesn't seek certainty because he understands that uncertainty is the only constant. He doesn't need to predict, he only needs to respond intelligently, and that ability, to remain calm when others panic, to remain objective when others react, is what silently compounds into success. The market will always tempt you with chaos, but neutrality keeps you grounded in structure. It turns fear into focus and greed into gratitude. That's why neutrality is not just an edge, it's the edge. The new generation of traders who internalize this will outperform, not because they have better tools but because they have better temperament. And that's where precision begins. Stillness before strategy. That is the principle that defines every elite trader who endures the test of time. The market may reward timing, but timing itself is born from mental stillness. Before the charts, before the setups, before the signals, there is a moment of silence. The mental reset where clarity begins. You can't execute clearly in a storm. You can't think accurately when your emotions are loud. Stillness turns chaos into clarity. It is not laziness or passivity. It is the highest form of control, the deliberate act of slowing down the mind before stepping into uncertainty. Most traders skip this step. They wake up, open charts, scroll through tickers, check positions, and react instantly. Their minds are already chaotic before the market even opens. That's why they misread signals and overtrade. They're trading from mental noise, not market logic. The still trader does the opposite. His process begins in silence, not strategy. He starts the day by centering his mind, not checking his feed. The first hour of his morning belongs to reflection, not reaction. Meditation, journaling, breathing, or simply sitting in observation. Whatever the method, the purpose is the same: to neutralize emotion before exposure. Because when you enter the market with internal turbulence, every candle looks like a threat. When you enter with stillness, every candle looks like information. The difference is not in the chart, it's in the clarity of perception. Stillness is the precondition for timing. It creates the gap between impulse and decision, between seeing and acting. That small gap is where the entire edge of a professional trader exists. When you learn to pause, you learn to perceive. Every premature entry and emotional exit is a symptom of mental noise. Stillness quiets that noise until the market's rhythm becomes readable. You begin to see movement not as chaos but as structure. Volatility stops feeling dangerous and starts feeling natural. You stop trying to force direction. You start letting opportunity reveal itself. That's why stillness isn't weakness. It's intelligence in motion. The best traders of 2026 understand that the real algorithm is emotional stability. They've built systems to manage energy, not just equity. They practice daily habits that regulate mind and body because they know the nervous system trades before the brain does. Deep breathing, brief pauses, structured journaling, micro-reflection between trades. These rituals are not optional, they are operational. The still trader resets after each trade, not because he is emotional but because he is precise. He knows that the residue of one trade can poison the clarity of the next if left unprocessed. So he sits, observes, breathes, and releases. That ritual becomes his edge. It's the invisible preparation that most traders never see but always feel in results. Stillness trains emotional endurance. It builds the strength to wait, to hold, to detach. In that waiting, patterns become visible that impulsive traders can never see. The quiet mind picks up subtle rhythm shifts that noisy minds miss entirely. That's why every great entry begins with inner calm. The market doesn't reward the fastest. It rewards the most patient. And patience isn't built in charts, it's built in stillness. When you cultivate this mental silence daily, you begin to trade from observation instead of reaction. You start anticipating from understanding instead of guessing from emotion. This is where execution transforms. Every decision feels effortless because it's grounded in clarity, not conflict. The mind no longer wrestles with uncertainty. It dances with it. You stop fighting the need to know, and you start trusting the process of flow. Stillness doesn't make you slower, it makes you synchronized. It aligns timing with awareness. The beginner believes that more analysis creates confidence. The evolved trader knows that more stillness creates precision. It's counterintuitive but true. The less you force, the more you see. The less you rush, the more you time. The less you react, the more you respond with accuracy. Stillness strips away illusion until only logic remains. It's like clearing fog from a lens. The chart didn't change, your perception did. You begin to see that most trading mistakes are not due to lack of knowledge but lack of mental clarity. A mind full of noise cannot read a silent market. The market whispers truth, but only stillness can hear it. In practical terms, this means scheduling moments of mental reset throughout the trading day. A few minutes of silence after losses to release frustration. A deep breath before entries to ensure alignment. A journal note after exits to learn without judgment. These small acts are not spiritual, they are tactical. They rewire your mental response system to remain calm under stress. Over time, this discipline compounds into intuitive mastery. You begin to feel the market instead of forcing it. You act without overthinking because clarity has replaced chaos. Stillness is the foundation of adaptability. It allows you to pivot when conditions change without emotional drag. It gives you the awareness to step back when the environment feels unnatural. Most traders lose not because they lack skill but because they lack inner space to think clearly under uncertainty. Stillness creates that space. It's the unseen skill behind consistency. It's the calm before every decisive strike. It's the pause that separates the reckless from the refined. Every high-level performer in any field, from athletes to soldiers, follows this principle: mental silence before tactical action. Trading is no different. The most powerful strategies mean nothing without a still mind to execute them. When your internal system is calm, every chart slows down. You start noticing details others overlook. You no longer chase trades, you select them. You no longer doubt decisions, you commit to them. Stillness is not about doing nothing. It's about doing everything with awareness. It's the art of waiting without frustration, acting without attachment, losing without collapse, and winning without ego. When you understand that, you stop searching for perfect systems because you realize the system is you. Stillness is the framework, the structure, the signal filter. And in 2026, stillness is the real algorithm. There's a formula that defines every trader's fate, and in 2026, it has become the silent code of consistency. Mindset equals clarity multiplied by patience, divided by ego plus urgency. At first glance it looks mathematical, but in reality it's psychological architecture, the invisible equation that governs every decision, every hesitation, every breakthrough. The formula reads simple, but its mastery defines the line between chaos and control. Let's break it down not as theory, but as truth born from experience. Clarity multiplied by patience. This is the numerator of every winning mindset. Clarity means seeing without distortion. It's the state where perception is not clouded by hope, fear, or bias. Most traders look at charts, but few actually see them. The untrained mind projects meaning onto noise. It sees what it wants to see, not what is. Clarity begins when you stop interpreting data emotionally. It's the quiet recognition of what is, not what should be. A clear mind reads structure, not stories. It notices momentum shifts without assigning drama. It studies probabilities without personal involvement. This mental neutrality allows a trader to act on truth rather than impulse. But clarity alone isn't enough. The second element, patience, is the multiplier of clarity. Without patience, clarity has no time to express itself. Patience is waiting without pressure, the ability to sit through uncertainty without losing emotional balance. The market rewards those who can outweight the impulsive. Every setup, every signal, every edge requires time to mature. But most traders cannot wait because their internal clock is ruled by fear. Fear of missing out, fear of being wrong, fear of being left behind. Patience is the antidote to this fear. It's not passive, it's strategic stillness. The patient trader is not lazy. He's a predator waiting for precision. His calm is not weakness, it's controlled timing. Patience allows clarity to operate unbroken by panic. Together, clarity and patience form the upper half of the equation, the productive force of mindset. But then comes the denominator, the destroyers of consistency: ego plus urgency. Ego is the need to be right. It's the silent addiction that makes traders cling to bad positions and justify emotional errors. Ego doesn't care about profit, it cares about identity. It whispers, "You can't be wrong." It transforms losses into personal attacks and turns analysis into defense. Ego blinds clarity because it filters reality through pride. The ego-driven trader doesn't look for truth, he looks for validation. He doesn't adapt, he argues with the market. The moment ego rises, clarity collapses. Every losing trade begins when ego rises faster than clarity. That's not philosophy, it's a psychological law. When the ego takes control, logic vanishes, and the trader starts seeing what he wants instead of what is. That distortion breeds disaster. The second denominator, urgency, is the emotional twin of ego. If ego says, "I must be right," urgency says, "I must act now." It's the force that kills timing, precision, and composure. Urgency is the impatience that drives premature entries and panic exits. It's the internal noise that mistakes motion for progress. Urgency feeds on fear. Fear of missing out, fear of falling behind. The urgent trader doesn't plan, he reacts. He confuses activity with productivity and believes the next trade will erase the pain of the last one. But markets don't reward speed, they reward synchronization. Every rushed action disconnects you from rhythm. Urgency divides your awareness just as ego blinds it. Together, ego and urgency dilute the power of clarity and patience. The formula is not symbolic, it's functional. When ego or urgency increase, the denominator grows and mindset weakens. Your decision-making power drops, you lose balance. You trade emotionally, not intelligently. The math never lies. Conversely, when you reduce ego and urgency, by accepting uncertainty and surrendering the need for control, the denominator shrinks. Clarity and patience dominate. Your mindset strengthens. You see cleaner, wait longer, execute sharper. It's not luck, it's math applied to psychology. This is why the best traders don't chase markets. They manage themselves. They know that mastery is not in predicting price, but in controlling perception. They train daily to lower ego, to dissolve urgency, to increase mental stillness. They journal emotions not for self-help, but for calibration. Every observation, every reflection, every pause, they are all micro adjustments to keep the formula balanced. The emotional reflection of clarity, awareness without attachment. The emotional reflection of patience, peace within uncertainty. The emotional reflection of ego, humility under pressure. The emotional reflection of urgency, surrender of time. Each of these reflections forms the internal ecosystem of consistency. It's not mechanical, it's psychological engineering. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if your formula is unbalanced, results will always mirror your mindset's instability. Think of it this way: clarity shows you what to do. Patience allows you to wait for the right time. Ego makes you fight reality. Urgency makes you rush into it. The strongest traders of 2026 understand this interplay. They trade from awareness, not excitement. Their calm is not natural, it's cultivated. They rehearse stillness the way athletes rehearse movement. They practice the pause before every decision. They no longer chase profit, they chase precision. That's why they appear emotionless. They've transcended the lower half of the formula. They've neutralized ego and urgency through discipline and reflection. This formula doesn't just apply to trading, it applies to every performance domain: business, art, sport, life. Wherever there is a decision under uncertainty, this equation holds true. Mindset equals clarity multiplied by patience divided by ego plus urgency. The goal is simple: increase the numerator, decrease the denominator. The process is lifelong. Every day, you measure progress not by profit but by purity of perception. How clearly did you see? How long could you wait? How little did your ego interfere? How calmly did you act under pressure? These are the real performance metrics of mastery. And when you live by this formula, something profound happens. Losses stop feeling personal. You stop fighting the market. You start observing it. Every loss becomes feedback, every win becomes confirmation, and every moment becomes practice. You become a mirror of the market, fluid, detached, responsive. That is the essence of trading in 2026: psychological precision through mathematical awareness. The formula is not a metaphor, it's a mental mechanism. When you understand it deeply, you realize that consistency is not an outcome, it's an equation you live by. Every trader enters the market thinking they're fighting price. But the real battle happens within, in the invisible milliseconds between trigger and reaction. That's where your fate is decided. You don't lose money because the chart turned against you, you lose because your emotions did. To evolve as a trader, you must rewire your reflexes, the automatic emotional loops that dictate how you respond to gain, loss, fear, and opportunity. These loops are ancient, hardwired survival mechanisms that once protected you in danger, but in markets, they destroy you. The brain still treats every red candle as threat, every missed entry as loss, every win as reward to chase again. This cycle repeats endlessly: trigger, reaction, regret, repeat. You feel a trigger, maybe a sudden drop, a missed setup, or a breakout you weren't part of. Your mind reacts instantly: fear, anger, or urgency takes over. Then comes the action: forced trades, doubled size, or hesitation. That's followed by regret, when the trade fails or the opportunity vanishes. You promise yourself it won't happen again, but the next day, the same loop repeats because nothing internal has changed. Reflection is what breaks this loop. It's the only tool that turns reaction into response. When you pause after the trigger, you introduce awareness between stimulus and behavior. That pause, even a few seconds long, is the space where rewiring begins. In that silence, you see the emotion for what it is, an impulse, not an instruction. You realize you don't have to obey it. That's the first act of emotional mastery. Every time you respond differently to pain, you're rewriting your brain. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity. your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new connections. But in trading, it's simpler. Awareness replaces reaction with observation. The first few times it feels unnatural, like fighting gravity. Your old reflexes scream for revenge trades or overcompensation. But the longer you practice pausing, the weaker those impulses become. You stop seeing a loss as personal failure, you start seeing it as data. You stop trading to fix emotion, you trade to follow logic. This is how the internal rewiring begins. Imagine a trader named Daniel. 5 years in the markets, brilliant in analysis but a prisoner of emotion. Every time he took a loss, he entered what he called the chase. He'd open another trade instantly, trying to make it back. His mind would say, just one more. Recover the loss. But the market doesn't care about recovery, it only mirrors your state. The more emotional he became, the worse his performance got. One night, after blowing half his account, Daniel decided to stop trading for a week. Instead of looking at charts, he studied his own journal. Not the technicals, but the emotions behind them. He saw a pattern: anger after loss, greed after win, exhaustion after both. That's when he realized he wasn't trading setups, he was trading emotions. So he built a ritual. Every time he felt the urge to act impulsively, he would pause for 60 seconds and breathe. Sometimes he'd even step away. At first it felt like losing control, but slowly, the urge to react started fading. In its place grew a quiet awareness, a sense of watching himself trade, not being trapped inside the moment. Over months, the revenge trades disappeared. His charts didn't change, but his reactions did, and that's when everything turned. His profitability didn't rise because he found a new strategy, it rose because he found distance. The gap between feeling and doing. That's what rewiring feels like: silence instead of speed, clarity instead of chaos. You begin to see emotions as signals, not orders. Fear tells you what you care about. Greed shows you where you're insecure. Regret reveals where your ego still hides. Once you observe these emotions instead of obeying them, they lose their control over you. You stop being the puppet of your reactions and start becoming the observer of your state. The difference between a losing trader and a consistent one is not information, it's response time. The losing trader reacts instantly, the evolved trader waits. He recognizes the emotional pattern forming, the tightening chest, the urge to act, and uses it as a cue to pause. He doesn't fight emotion, he allows it to pass through awareness. That's why he appears calm, not because he feels nothing, but because he resists nothing. The secret is not suppression, it's integration. Every emotion has energy, and when you stop resisting it, that energy transforms into clarity. Pain becomes focus, fear becomes caution, loss becomes wisdom. You don't master trading, you master the parts of you that ruin trading. The ego that needs to be right, the fear that can't sit still, the doubt that interprets uncertainty as danger. These are the reflexes that must be restrained. Reflection is the rewiring process. Every night, a conscious trader reviews not just what went wrong technically, but what happened emotionally. What was I feeling before I entered that trade? What belief drove that decision? Did I act to express skill or to escape discomfort? This daily self-audit turns emotional chaos into emotional intelligence. It builds a feedback loop that strengthens awareness and weakens impulse. Over time, the trader's nervous system learns new responses. A sudden drop no longer triggers panic, it triggers analysis. A win no longer triggers overconfidence, it triggers gratitude and reset. You literally build new neural pathways, replacing fear with focus, reaction with reflection. That's why consistency is psychological, not statistical. You can't stay consistent if your emotions aren't. You can't repeat calm actions if your inner system is chaotic. Emotional rewiring means reprogramming how your mind interprets market events. Instead of labeling them as success or failure, you label them as information. Every trade becomes feedback. Every mistake becomes a mirror. Every pause becomes progress. Eventually, this mindset becomes automatic. You stop trying to control the market, you start managing the internal dialogue. You start noticing how much silence exists between movements, both in price and in thought. That's when trading becomes meditative. The screens no longer feel like battlefields, they feel like mirrors. You stop fearing loss because loss no longer defines you. You start trusting yourself because you've proven you can remain still in a storm. The reflexes that once sabotaged you become the foundation that supports you. Your nervous system adapts to pressure instead of collapsing under it. That's the transformation every trader seeks, not to eliminate emotion, but to master response. The rewired trader no longer seeks comfort and control, he finds control in awareness. He no longer reacts to pain, he learns from it. He no longer avoids discomfort, he uses it as feedback to strengthen his mindset. Every emotional trigger becomes an opportunity for refinement. Every loss becomes an exercise in detachment. Every hesitation becomes an invitation to breathe. The loop is broken. The reflex is rewired. The trader remains calm, awake, unshaken. And in that stillness, precision emerges naturally. In trading, precision isn't born from control. It's born from calm repetition. The traders who survive in 2026 have discovered a truth that few talk about. Execution isn't about speed, it's about still timing. The fastest clicks don't win anymore, the most stable minds do. Execution has evolved from reaction to rhythm, a state where every action feels almost effortless, detached, and exact. You don't chase movement, you synchronize with it. You don't predict, you align. The external world may look chaotic, but inside, there's stillness. That's the environment where precision is born. In execution, mental noise is the real enemy. The slightest tremor of emotion, doubt, excitement, fear, disrupts timing. That's why the best traders in 2026 don't execute like humans, they execute like disciplined machines with human awareness. Their process is simple but sacred: wait, observe, decide, execute, detach. Once the decision is made, emotion has no seat at the table. They don't wonder if it will work, they've already accepted that the result is irrelevant compared to the quality of action. The mind that acts without needing the outcome never misses. Because missing is not about losing a trade, it's about losing composure. True precision is psychological alignment, when thought, emotion, and execution move as one. During execution, a trader's mental state must feel like glass, transparent, unshaken, clear. Thoughts flow but don't stick. Feelings arise but don't interfere. Awareness sharpens like a blade. This is the execution zone, the place between doing and being where performance becomes instinctive. But that instinct is not born naturally, it's forged through repetition. Every day, you build what I call the emotional discipline loop. A cycle of consistent behavior that shapes your trading identity. It starts with intention. I will act according to plan, not emotion. Then comes execution, taking the trade as designed, neither too soon nor too late. Then reflection, reviewing the execution, not the result. Finally, reinforcement, reminding yourself that every disciplined action, regardless of outcome, strengthens identity. The more you complete this loop, the stronger your mental muscle becomes. Discipline ceases to be effort, it becomes who you are. Each repetition ingrains neural precision. Your brain learns that following process brings peace, not tension. You begin to trust your own structure more than market movement. You stop looking for control outside and start building it inside. That's the secret difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs rely on adrenaline to act, professionals rely on alignment. Amateurs execute for validation, professionals execute for expression. The amateur's action is reactive, driven by emotion, noise, or fear of missing. The professional's action is reflective, deliberate, minimal, and detached. The professional knows that precision doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing less, but doing it perfectly. Every movement in execution is measured, intentional. The hand that clicks is steady because the mind behind it is quiet. The breath slows, the body stills. The trader's heartbeat syncs with the rhythm of the market. This synchronization is the real performance edge, a harmony between internal calm and external chaos. And it's not mystical, it's neurological. When the mind is focused and emotionally neutral, reaction time improves, perception widens, and errors drop. That's why calm traders appear faster, not because they move quicker, but because they hesitate less. Their decisions flow from clarity, not panic. The more emotionally stable the trader, the more naturally precise the execution. In this state, there's no rush, no excitement, no fear, just flow. A professional trader once said, "When I'm trading well, it feels like I'm watching myself trade." That's the paradox of precision. You're both inside and outside the moment, deeply engaged but completely detached. You act, but you don't interfere. You observe, but you don't judge. This split awareness creates the highest form of control. Control through surrender. You're no longer trying to make trades work. You're allowing your process to unfold. Precision is emotional maturity in motion, the daily practice of stillness under pressure. You don't earn it once, you maintain it every session. You train your reflexes to act cleanly, without emotional residue. Every trade becomes a brushstroke, and together they form the art of consistency. The best traders understand this. It's not about winning more, it's about executing better. Every perfect execution, even if it leads to a small loss, reinforces internal trust, and that trust compounds. It becomes the foundation of unshakable confidence. Not confidence that you'll win, but confidence that you'll stay aligned no matter what. That's what gives traders longevity. Without precision, you're emotional. Without emotion, you're mechanical. But when you merge the two, Discipline of a machine with awareness of a human. You achieve mastery. You stop reacting to the market's rhythm and start conducting it. You wait, you move, you pause, you breathe, like a musician hitting perfect notes in chaos. The market becomes music, and your execution becomes timing. The trader of 2026 doesn't rush, he listens. He acts with deliberate calm, every move grounded in process. His trades look robotic, but they're full of intelligence. His silence is not hesitation, it's precision. Because precision is not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about showing up every day in the same mental shape, still, clear, patient. It's about executing from awareness, not adrenaline. It's about understanding that the outcome doesn't define you, your discipline does. The moment you stop needing the result, you start achieving results. Because when you no longer trade to win, you finally start trading well. That's the paradox every trader must learn to live by. Precision is not mechanical. It's emotional maturity practiced daily. Every trader talks about strategy, but few talk about energy. Yet the truth is simple: you don't lose because your system failed. You lose because your focus died. Behind every bad decision is a tired mind. Behind every missed opportunity is drained awareness. Trading is not just a game of intellect, it's a game of energy management. The market doesn't test your technicals as much as it tests your emotional endurance. Every candle you watch, every fluctuation you react to, drains your inner battery. And when that battery runs low, your perception narrows, your timing slips, and your discipline collapses. That's why in 2026, the most advanced traders don't just manage capital, they manage energy, because they've learned that trading performance follows emotional energy the same way a shadow follows light. When your energy is high and centered, your awareness expands. You see the flow, you sense rhythm, you respond with clarity. But when your energy is scattered by stress, fatigue, or mental noise, your awareness contracts. You lose sensitivity to market rhythm. You start reacting instead of observing. You begin forcing trades that don't align, chasing movement you would normally ignore. Every overtrade, every impulsive entry, every moment of revenge trading, it all starts with low energy awareness. A tired trader trades reactively, not strategically. That's why the foundation of consistent performance lies in what I call the energy awareness framework: rest, clarity, focus, renewal. These four elements define whether you operate like a professional or collapse like an amateur. Rest is not luxury, it's performance maintenance. The brain you bring to the charts is your primary tool, and it needs recovery cycles just like a machine. Sleep, silence, and disconnection are not optional. They're prerequisites for perception. Without rest, your emotional stability erodes. You become hypersensitive to every tick, every fluctuation. The market feels louder, faster, and more threatening than it actually is. You start mistaking movement for danger. That's when overreactions begin. Rest resets the nervous system, restores cognitive balance, and reopens awareness. The traders who rest well trade better not because they're lazy, but because they return sharper. Clarity is the second layer. It's what happens when the mind is rested enough to process without noise. Clarity means you can separate signal from chaos. It's not about thinking harder, it's about thinking cleaner. Most traders think confusion is a market problem. It's not. It's a mental energy problem. A fatigued mind can't hold perspective. It fixates on small fluctuations and loses sight of structure. The result: micro reactions to macro noise. When you're clear, you notice what matters. You stop interpreting price emotionally. You begin to sense rhythm, not randomness. Clarity doesn't come from caffeine or motivation. It comes from recovery and awareness. Focus is the third pillar. It's where energy meets direction. When clarity sharpens perception, focus channels it. It's the state of total immersion, where you are so present that distraction dissolves. True focus in trading is not about staring at the screen longer, it's about seeing deeper. It's when time slows down and your awareness expands to include every subtle cue, volume, reaction, timing, your own emotion. In that state, trading feels effortless because attention flows without interruption. But focus is fragile. It burns energy fast. You can't sustain it for hours without draining your reserves. That's why professional traders manage focus like capital, deploying it where it counts and stepping away when it depletes. They understand that awareness has a cost. Every decision, every trade, consumes a bit of their psychological bandwidth, so they conserve energy for high probability moments. Renewal completes the framework. It's the ability to restore mental energy mid-battle, to recharge awareness without leaving the field. Renewal can come from micro breaks: meditation, stretching, breathing, or journaling. Anything that resets your internal rhythm renews your state. Renewal turns fatigue into fuel. It allows clarity to return faster and focus to last longer. Without renewal, discipline decays. The trader becomes reactive again. repeating old patterns because the mind no longer has the energy to resist them. That's why the most self-aware traders treat energy management as sacred ritual. They track mood, rest, attention, and emotional charge with the same precision they track price levels. They know that awareness is not constant. It fluctuates like the market. So they calibrate their strategy to their state. If their energy is low, they reduce risk or skip sessions entirely. They don't see it as weakness, they see it as preservation. Because they know that a tired mind is a dangerous capital. A single impulsive trade made in exhaustion can erase weeks of disciplined effort. The evolved trader respects his energy as much as his account balance. He understands that when he's drained, he's vulnerable to bias, to overtrading, to emotional distortion. That awareness alone is what separates the consistent from the chaotic. Think of it this way: every trade you take is an expression of your current state. If you're clear, calm, and focused, your trades will reflect that. If you're fatigued, anxious, or scattered, your trades will reflect that too. The market doesn't care, but your results will. Awareness begins with noticing your internal conditions before you analyze external ones. Before you fix your setup, fix your state. Ask yourself, am I focused or fatigued? Am I observing or reacting? Am I trading from clarity or emotion? This daily check-in is the hidden ritual of elite traders. It keeps their awareness clean and their execution consistent. The trader who protects his energy protects his edge. Because in truth, awareness is the highest form of capital. It compounds silently. Every day you manage your energy well, you strengthen your perception. And with stronger perception comes better timing, better judgment, better control. The tired mind chases, the aware mind waits. The tired trader trades to escape pain, the aware trader trades to express skill. Energy is the difference. Awareness is the multiplier. That's the real formula behind performance. The market rewards not who knows the most, but who's most awake while trading. In the end, mastery isn't about trading more. It's about trading from a higher state of mind. There comes a point in every trader's evolution where charts, indicators, and strategies fade into the background. What remains is the mind, silent, alert, and unattached. This is where the trader transcends. The transition is subtle yet profound. It's not about doing more, it's about becoming less reactive, less attached, less in need of validation from the market's next tick. The true trader no longer hunts for confirmation. He is the confirmation. He no longer looks for perfect setups. He is the setup. This is the stage of trading beyond outcome, where profit becomes a byproduct of alignment, not aggression. Most traders never arrive here. They're trapped in cycles of trying to control, trying to win, trying to predict. But the moment you stop trying, something incredible happens. Effort transforms into ease. Your mind stops fighting the market's rhythm and begins to flow with it. This is the effortless execution zone, the point where awareness guides action without interference. The mind becomes an observer, not a participant. You still execute your plan, but there's no emotional noise between intention and action. The trade happens, but you don't cling to it. Whether it wins or loses, you stay centered. This is not detachment through apathy, it's detachment through wisdom. You understand that control was never your edge, awareness was. In this state, time slows down, the noise of the market fades. You begin to feel the pulse of momentum, not through analysis but through intuition, an intuition refined by discipline, silence, and thousands of emotional repetitions. You no longer chase flow, you become flow. The paradox is clear. When you stop chasing profit, you start performing better. When you stop forcing setups, the right ones reveal themselves. When you stop trying to win, your natural rhythm aligns with the market's truth. This is trading as meditation, precision without pressure. Every click, every entry, every exit becomes an expression of presence. There's no rush, no fear, no need, only observation and execution coexisting as one. You begin to realize that mastery was never about control, it was about surrendering the illusion of control. The market doesn't need to be tamed, your mind does. And once your mind is tamed, every candle becomes your teacher. Every fluctuation becomes feedback, every loss becomes refinement. You start to see that peace and performance were never separate. Peace was the foundation of true performance all along. The trader who transcends doesn't seek freedom from losses. He finds freedom within them. He understands that the market is neutral, and his interpretation defines his reality. In this neutrality, his emotions no longer dictate his trades, awareness does. That awareness, calm, deep, and sharp, becomes the ultimate formula. No longer chasing, no longer fearing, just being. That is the trader who transcends. The one who doesn't fight for control but flows with precision. The one who no longer reacts to the market but responds through presence. In this final stage, the market and the trader dissolve into one awareness. There is no you and no There is only observation, only execution, only flow. You don't trade anymore. You express through trading, and that's when you realize the deepest truth of all: you never needed to conquer the market. You only needed to master your mind. When that happens, peace becomes your position, awareness becomes your entry, and freedom becomes your profit. You become the setup. You become the signal. You become the market. In the end, every chart, every system, every strategy points back to one truth: it was never about the market. It was always about you. The greatest formula of this era isn't built on algorithms or predictions, but on awareness, discipline, and stillness. You begin to see that trading was never just a financial pursuit. It was a mirror reflecting every emotion you refused to face. When you evolve beyond greed, fear, and urgency, you step into clarity. You will win not because you found the secret indicator, but because you found yourself. The 2026 trading formula is not about missing or hitting. It's about mastering the space between impulse and action. The invisible moment where decisions are born. That's where everything changes. That's where the amateur fades and the professional awakens. You no longer fight the market, you flow with it. You no longer fear loss, you understand it. You no longer trade for outcome, you trade from awareness. And when that space between impulse and action becomes your strength, you never miss again.